You about our fourth writing assignment in English 002, interpreting bias. Um, Kind of a misnomer a little bit on this one. Basically, this is an essay where you take a side on a particular issue, and this particular issue is social media a friend or a foe? Now, those of us living through the coronavirus mess um, probably have very specific ideas about this. And so, this is a chance for you to be able to express your opinion, but you also have to back it up with supports. Now, this can be evidence from your own personal life. This can be evidence from the essay that you're reading. Kara Woodridge, it has a blog article that we're reading called Social Media Friend or Foe. Tech Maven is the name of her blog. And this particular essay goes into both sides of the issue, very much like our penny debate at the beginning of the term, although this one is a little more detailed. When I printed it out, it was about 2.5 pages, so that's not hugely long. I would encourage you to save it on your computer and then make it be double spaced. That'll make it 5 pages, but it'll give you space to write and do your annotations. I want you to read this at least twice. Read it once, make sure you have kind of the idea that she's doing, and then read it the second time critically with a pen or colored pencils or however you do your annotations and markings for reading, and walk through the NROC unit on this. They're going to walk you through the particular article as well, but it's always good to have what's in it in your head before you get started. This essay is, like I said, taking a side. And so you have to decide for today um, whether you think social media is more friendly, more a friend to you, or more a foe, more an enemy. Now, most of us come down on the depends upon the day, depends upon what part of social media you're talking about, depends upon who's on the other end of the social media. And that's well and good. What I would like for you to do, though, in this particular article, this particular essay that you're writing, is to choose one side as dominant. So if you decide that you're going to use social media as a friend, then most of your ink, most of your writing needs to be focused on that. Of course, you need to acknowledge that some people would say social media is a foe and that you can understand that because. Okay, give us at least one reason because. Um, but the main focus of your essay should be on the side that you choose. Okay, don't split this straight down the middle. I want you to really work at laying out a clear argument that is one-sided with an acceptance of the other side's idea, at least one of them. Now, your assignment sheet says you need to clearly explain your view and that the first paragraph should be a good introduction that explains the idea of social media and why we should be careful. Okay. Um, you have a little handout in the handouts particular unit, unit 4, that is a repeat of one from before on good introductions, some different ideas and ways to begin things. Have a look at that. Make sure that you are focused on your ideas. Make sure that you separate your ideas into paragraphs and that everything about a particular point goes in the same paragraph. The essay assignment says you need 3 more paragraphs, so at least 4 paragraphs for this essay. If you need more space, or maybe you have 3 ideas of why it's a good thing, one that you're going to give me that is, okay, so here's why it might be a bad thing, and then a conclusion. Okay, so that's 6 paragraphs, and that's okay. There is no end limit on this particular paper. There is a minimum, though. You have to have a minimum of 4 paragraphs, which means you need to have at least ideas that support your side and one idea that is on the other side, and then your intro and your conclusion. Not a big deal. Okay, you can do this. Make sure that when you're walking through the NROC pieces on the first draft that you put your pieces in the right spot. Now, I know sometimes you get on a roll and it's like, oh, this is next, 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 next. Okay. You can copy, highlight that section that is extra, and do Control X to pull it off, and then Control V to put it back where it belongs. Make sure that you're separating things out according to what the directions say. Part of being a good color, follow the directions, even when it's not exactly how you work. Putting things together in a particular way is something that you're going to have to do. Even as a college instructor, I have to follow rules. I have to do certain things in a certain way, whether they make absolute sense to me or not. And so, learning how to do your best work under the constraints of whatever program or system you're working in is a very good life skill. And so, you're practicing some of that here. Hopefully, not too much, though. It gets a little bit frustrating. Okay, so you're going to tell your side of the story. You're going to see and tell us what you believe social media is, friend or foe. And then I want you to have a look at the rubric. You're going to be graded. Um, the purpose of the paper, your thesis statement, supporting ideas, paragraph development, and of course, grammar and punctuation. And they're worth varying stages of points depending upon how you do. There are five, and for a 100-point paper, 5 divided by 100 is 20. So each of these things is given a 20-point score. Um, Proficient means you've done what you're supposed to do. Is the difference between an A plus and an A minus. Um, that particular piece there is, it's worth 20 points. How many? That depends upon how well you clearly present a well-supported, interesting claim on social media and include fresh, thoughtful views on the issue. Now, the idea of a fresh view is somewhat subjective. Um, I've been using social media since it's been around. I have been using computers since they've been around. So I've been around a long time. I want you to think about maybe not saying something absolutely brand new, but saying something that is true for you. And that makes it fresh because you're the one doing the actual writing and it's your opinion, it's your point of view. Um, the thesis statements, okay, the thesis statement for your actual paper should go in your introduction, okay? Clearly presents a thesis statement in an interesting way and shows how the essay will progress. So in your introduction, you want to make sure that you tell us out loud, I believe social media is a foe because it does more harm than good, okay, something like that. Or I believe social media is a friend because, especially in the days of Corona, it keeps us connected to our friends and our family that we can't physically go see. It keeps us connected to our class. Our classroom turns into this little corner of my house. But your classroom is, your dining room table, your own little office, your maybe it's your laptop in your bedroom by yourself because you have a family and they're running around crazy. But here we are. Supporting ideas, make sure that you have a big idea for each paragraph and then include the little ideas that support it. That's the best way to think about it, I think. You have solid examples to support your thesis, to support the topic sentence for each paragraph. And you can think about a topic sentence as being kind of a mini thesis for each paragraph. Make sure everything in your paragraph relates back to that topic. Great. Your paragraph development, make sure that each paragraph gives the complete idea, that it has at least two good examples to go with it, and that it follows logically from the paragraph before. Your paragraphs should have a specific order, and you need to be able to explain, at least in your own head, why paragraph number 2 is number 2 and number 3 is number 3. Maybe it's chronology. This is how I have learned about social media. I started with Facebook. I went to Snapchat. I've done what's the new thing? TikTok. And there's a progression there because of the way I want to interact with my peers, with other folks around the world. Last but not least is grammar and punctuation. And I will tell you, one of the English teachers' biggest pet peeves is when we spend the time to go through your paper and make corrections and give you comments, and then the next draft looks exactly like the one we just went through, mistakes and all. This is a time in this transition English class for you to improve your writing, for you to see where those mistakes are so you can fix them. Part of being a good student is learning from your mistakes. It's not saying, oh, I bombed that test because it was an unfair test. Now, maybe it was an unfair test, but you can always do better. You can always figure out how things work. And because we do the same things in the same order all the time, it helps you develop a rhythm. And one of the things I want you to be more careful about in these last two papers, Unit 4 and Unit 5, one, they're longer, so you're going to have to pay closer attention to things than you have before. Two, this is progressing in the class, right? This is Unit 4 and Unit 5. And you need to be able to show me that you have learned from the writing of the penny response, from the summary and response for Rice for Thanksgiving, that you've learned from writing this epiphany paper, something when everything changed for you. Um, and your writing should progress. You still shouldn't be making the same mistakes or turning in the same kind of work that you were in Unit 1. That's part of what education school is about, is helping you grow in that particular field, in that particular skill. And writing is a skill. You can all learn to be better writers. We're not all going to be Stephen King, or we're not all going to be whoever your favorite writer is, but we can all be better in our own writing and in our own selves. So make sure that you've gone through the pieces for this paper. Make sure that you follow the directions in the NROC units. Your first thing, of course, is the vocabulary, and then we work through some other pieces for before we actually do the writing. Please, please, please follow the steps. That's why they're there. You need to stay in the unit until you finish it, and that includes the ending assessment. Your ending assessment and your final draft both have to hit 80%, or you can't pass the class. Even if all the other units are 90s, 95s, 98s, if you have one unit that you sloughed off and didn't do well, you have to go back and do that one, or you can't pass the class. And remember, this is not an A, B, C, D, E, F class. This is a pass-fail. And the criteria for the pass is 80% in every unit. So do your work with integrity. If you run into trouble or your Blackboard gives you fits, shoot me an email. I try to get back to those the same day. Sometimes you may have to wait a day, especially if you're hitting me up on the weekend. I try really hard to take a break from digital stuff on Sundays, like I said in my introductory thing. So keep that in mind. Make sure that you're doing as much as you can to get this stuff done, and I will do everything I can to help you finish well. Okay, so Unit 4 paper is a taking aside. Make sure that you are clear and correct in what you're looking at. Make sure that you have support for each of your ideas. The support can come from the article. The support can come from your own personal life. I do not expect you to be doing research for this. Now, if you want to go look up something else, by all means, have fun with that. But go back to the quoting and paraphrasing handout and video and make sure that you're quoting things correctly. Make sure that you make a stab at that this time too. Learning how to do what you have to do to get credit for your English classes is part of this class's job. And so I want to help you as much as I can. Again, have a good day. Make sure that you're doing your work with integrity. Bye-bye.